This is the story about the new Cornelia Mine in southern Arizona. This old mine site sits right on the outskirts of the small town of Ajo, Arizona. Early Spanish miners were drawn to this area from rumors of metals and pigments that were used by natives in the region. These Spanish miners began excavating some shafts. However, due to frequent attacks by local natives, the Spaniards didn't stick around for long. These old workings sat idle until 1884 when a miner by the name of Tom Childs came to the area. He and along with another partner started the Arizona Mining and Trading Company and then proceeded to mine the old shafts the Spaniards had left behind. What these two men were quick to find in these old abandoned shafts was high-grade copper, but like most mining operations, there were problems. One of the major problems with this mine was the location out in the middle of nowhere. Water and much-needed everyday supplies were scarce, and logistics back then was pretty much non-existent. One of the real issues was the processing of ore. It's hard to wrap your head around this, but the ore from the mine was shipped all the way across the ocean to Swansea, Wales to be refined. The first load was about 10 tons of hand-cobbed, high-grade copper ore and was transported 300 miles by ox-drawn wagons through Fort Yuma to the port of San Diego. From there, the ore was loaded onto a boat and shipped by boat around Cape Horn to Swansea, Wales for smelting. On one of these trips, the ship loaded with ore sank off the coast of South America, and that put a stop to mining for a short while. However, by 1859, the company ceased operations. By the way, I have another video on the Swansea mine, which is up by Parker, Arizona, and they also shipped their ore halfway around the world over to a smelter in Wales. I'll leave a link in the description box below as well as at the end of this video if you're interested. Later in 1884, Tom Childs partnered up with an assayer named Washington Jacobs, and these two men operated the mine. By this time, ore was being shipped by wagons to Gila Bend and then loaded onto rail cars and shipped to the Selby Smelting Company in San Francisco. In 1898, Childs and Jacobs sold the mine to a stock promoter named Shotwell. He then partnered up with a businessman named John Bodie. These two guys got a mill going to process ore, but after having to mine, crush, and ship this ore, they found out that they were going in the hole and the venture went bust. Undaunted by going broke, Shotwell then started the Rescue Copper Company as a way to save the mine's assets. Then, to get some extra cash, this company sold a portion of the mine's holdings to the Cornelia Copper Company. After a few more dealings of claims and sales, in 1909, the company became known as the New Cornelia Copper Company. Now, while all this was going on, the company enlisted the services of a man named Fred McGahan for 30 grand. This guy had invented a new-fangled smelting system that was supposed to work with the ores this mine had. However, this smelting system didn't live up to expectations, and just before the smelter went online, the guy skipped town with the money, then demanded another 50 grand for information on how to make the smelter run. He was later arrested and charged with 3 counts of getting money under false pretenses. Now, if getting scammed once wasn't bad enough, the company ended up getting involved with another company called the Rendell Ore Reduction Company. This company built a 50-ton plant that was supposed to be able to treat all the ores for $1 a ton, or even less, and was supposed to be able to purify the ores to 95% or more in purity. This plant was supposed to utilize the gases from wood, coal, or oil to treat the ores, which were fluxed with a special fluxing gas. Long story short, it was a total failure. Being totally discouraged, the company then went on to trying out another totally untested process called the Anderson process. This smelting process was touted to produce copper at a cost of less than 3 cents per pound. However, costs were later increased to 8 cents. The best daily rate was 600 pounds of copper, a far cry from the 10,000 daily pounds that were touted by the Anderson salesman. And of course, as luck would have it, No sooner had the company barely recovered from this non-working smelter and being out a pile of cash, the panic of 1907 hit the economy and the mine, and everything closed down. For the next few years, not a lot happened, and then in 1911 a percentage of the claims were sold to a group called the Calumet and Arizona Copper Company. This company already had some copper mining operations down in Bisbee and had developed a way to process the ores. By 1915 they were processing ore from the new Cornelia Mine, and the following year in 1916 the railroad came to town. This made getting supplies in and out more efficient and cost-friendly. In 1917 the company started to open pit mine, and this pit would be the first open pit mine in Arizona using steam-powered shovels to dig out the ores. During the 1920s, a fleet of 18 steam locomotives served the pit, and the small town grew, and in 1931 the company merged with Phelps Dodge. The mine later expanded the pit utilizing 4 22.5 cubic yard haul trucks, and by 1939 electric shovels began to replace the old steam shovels. Diesel locomotives began operating at the mine in 1945, and in 1950 a smelter was constructed. Low copper prices and high operational costs in the mid-1980s suspended mining activity, and the mine was closed. It is estimated that 446 million tons of ore were mined since 1900, with production of over 3 million tons of copper, 463 tons of molybdenum, 1.5 million ounces of gold, and almost 20 million ounces of silver. You can still go to this old mine site today. It's just on the edge of town. There is a lookout where you can see the pit where all the ore was excavated from. This pit is over a mile long and 1,000 feet deep. You can also see the massive tailings pile. This tailings pile is said to contain almost 7.5 billion cubic feet of mine waste tailings. The town itself is a nice, well-kept little place. Colorful little houses line the streets, and the old-style buildings are well painted and cared for. There is also a museum not far from the pit lookout. However, it was closed the day I was there. Well, that's about it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed this short story about the new Cornelia Mine. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you more old, lost mine stories.